Hey there, and thank you for listening to the Dream Center Peoria podcast. Dream Center Peoria exists to impact families living in poverty, starting with kids and youth. If you want to learn more about what we're up to at the Dream Center, you can find us online at dreamcenterpeoria.org or on social media at Dream Center Peoria. Thanks for listening.
Hi, well, my name's Andy King and welcome to the Dream Center podcast. As you know, during this time, we've been doing a new series called New Reality, and we have been interviewing and getting to know a lot of people throughout the community and beyond our community, just so that people can see a glimmer of hope. There's not much hope for a lot of people at this time. A lot of people losing jobs. A lot of industries are being affected. And so we just felt it was time to present something on a weekly basis just to bring a bit of hope and also for you to get to know the people behind what goes on at the Dream Center and also people who are connected with us. So today, as you can see, there are two people with me. You may already know Brian Eulenhop. He's the development director at Dream Center Peoria, does an incredible job. One of our rock stars. In fact, most of our staff are rock stars. In fact, all of our staff are rock stars, but there are some that are like, whoa, we couldn't do this without Brian. And so he's with us today. And we also today have Bob Woolsey from Jones Brothers Jewelers. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Me and Brian were talking a few weeks ago and said, hey, who are some of the people in town that we just would love to have on the podcast who probably have not been on a podcast or been on a stage when we've done an event, but who are definitely people who love Dream Center, but also who love Peoria. And your name was the first person, you were the first person that came up. And so we wanted to get you on the podcast. I remember seeing you back in November, I do believe, October, November, in the LA. We were coming back from LA and you were there to see the Bears play, which I went to that game as well. And we lost. But it was, I was there for a conference and you'd gone out there for the game and we'd bumped into one another at the airport. But you've been supporting the Dream Center in many, many ways over a number of years. And so today, and that's why we got Brian as well, because Brian is a great interviewer as well. I mean, if I forget questions, Brian's going to get my back really, really quick. But tell us a bit about yourself and you're married. Tell us a bit about everything that people may not know about you, Bob.
So I grew up in the Pekin, Peoria area. My family was originally involved in the Woolsey Funeral Home in Pekin, Delavan, and Glassford. And then we purchased Jones Brothers Jewelers in 1978. And then I'm not sure the year. I know it was my sixth grade year. We moved from Pekin to Peoria. So a lot of people don't realize that I did grow up on the other side of the river in Pekin and have some very fond memories of that part of central Illinois. And it's an awesome place. And so we moved to Peoria when I was in sixth grade, and my father and uncle, Bennett, my dad, and my uncle Baird actually kind of split the businesses up. So my dad took the jewelry stores. My uncle took the funeral home, and we operated the store in Pekin and Peoria, which originally was Jerry Garrett in the Metro Center. For many years, my dad actually passed away in 1989. So I was a junior in high school. And he took his life, and tough stuff there. But you know, at a young age, I think I learned that there's challenges that are really hard and really build who you are and your character. And then there's things that kind of day in, day out, you know, seem hard, but they're not that big a deal. And so I went on to graduate from Richwoods High School. We had a lot of success in football back then, thanks to a great set of coaches, and they really stepped in and fulfilled a role in my life that was needed at the time.
Yeah.
And I also got involved in a program called Teens Encounter Christ, which was a Catholic retreat program that Bishop O'Rourke made non-denominational. So I wasn't Catholic at the time. And that really shaped my youth. Went on to Indiana University, came after Indiana University, went on to Los Angeles to gemology school, and then worked my way back to work with my mother, Betty, who's now Betty Schlachter. And from like 1996 through, I think, 2000 and the end of 2017, 2018. It's hard to remember the exact year, but she retired and I became sole owner. Jones Brothers, married the love of my life, Mia, 21 years ago.
Wow.
Friday.
Whoa.
So May 22nd, 1999. And we have 3 lovely children. Bennett, who's a senior. So it's been interesting seeing the graduation without school. My son, Charlie, who's a freshman, and my daughter, Edie, who's a 7th grader. And then we have a 4th young man that we've kind of brought into our family, Martise, who's a freshman as well at Notre Dame. And it's truly been interesting seeing how the 4 of them all have handled online learning.
Yeah.
And the COVID-19, Martise is with his family down by Manual, and our children are in our house. And there's been a lot of good. There's been some struggles, and we've learned that the education degree that I got in college, I'm not going to say it's come in handy, but it's showed me just how challenging being a teacher would be nowadays. So so Jones Brothers is my main source of income, I would say, and I currently serve as the president of the Children's Hospital Board. I'm on the board for Big Brothers Big Sisters, locally, the Heart of Illinois Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I've functioned in a world, it's now called EW+, but it's basically Empowered Wealth, and it's a nationwide group of people talking about true wealth and what really matters. And one of these days I'll do the presentation for you guys, because I think you'd love it. So
it's good.
But that has been the realm that I've spent most of the last 8 weeks in, is that personal development of what really matters. And it's been a gift. So
yeah. Do you find it's been and obviously as we're filming this COVID, we're in Illinois, so we're not sure what's going to happen in the next few weeks, but we've been in stay at home, so to speak, for 7-8 weeks, something like that. What are some of the things that you as a small business owner perhaps has had to adapt to quickly? Not only with the business side, but with your staff side as well. What are some of the things that you're like, wow, this is different, but it may be something that sticks down the road as well?
So I would say the first day of lockdown, on that Monday, I just had a strong desire to see what the world looked like shut down. And I realized that it was basically hair salons, spas, people that did massage and nails, and true retail,
right,
were the ones that were really shut down. And it was shocking that most of Peoria was actually going to work, and most of the businesses had cars in their parking lot. And so that gave me a bit of hope, but it also gave me like a kind of a laughter that I never thought as a retail jeweler that I would actually be in the center of a crisis. Usually retail jewelers, unless you're getting robbed, are not in the center of a crisis.
Right.
So I never dreamt that we would have to lock the door and figure out like what to do. So the things that I look at and really highlight that the government did well to support us, things we had to figure out was initially the EIDL loan, which was the emergency disaster loan, and then the PPP. And for our business, I feel lucky because we were able to shut down, get the PPP loan very early, which meant that we kept all of our people on the payroll. We had leadership team meetings. We had team huddles Tuesday through Friday. Our team was reaching out to their clients. They were doing webinars. They were working on things that you just don't have time to do when you're open.
Yeah.
And so we took the path of really, how can we take our store from here to here during the COVID quarantine? And I mean, I came into work every day simply because we have a safe that has a lot of people's stuff in it, not only my family's, but other families. And I found it important to make sure that everything was okay. And,
yeah,
you know, we did things that it was odd that nobody was here, but, you know, I came in with my accountant. Other people would come in, you know, here and there to help, you know, do different things. And it really built our team in a different way.
Yeah.
And I feel blessed that we went the path of keeping everybody, because we stayed engaged. And I think it was 2 weeks ago Friday, if not 3, we were allowed to open curbside. And the team was really excited and ready to put certain things into place that I don't know that we would have been ready had we furloughed everybody. And everybody was grateful to know that they have a paycheck. Everybody was grateful to know that they have a purpose. And I think that that's the greatest thing that I've seen in Peoria is we're not dependent upon tourism, at least yet.
Right.
I don't know that that's going to happen or not. You know, we're not dependent upon a lot of things, those sectors that have really shut down. And we have a healthcare community through OSF and Unity Point that, you know, early on built the St. Gabriel Hospital at Jump, which was the digital response to the entire area, and even supported Chicago. And even, you know, Dr. Vaz was on one of the Illinois, the Governor Pritzker's daily press conference. And what I felt from the beginning is, from a health perspective, our community is extremely flexible, extremely capable, and extremely like cutting edge when it comes to this. So
yeah,
I really feel like our area has managed this well. And I think that we have a lot of potential to come out of this stronger than a lot of areas.
yeah,
And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to move back to a place like Peoria where a pandemic can be managed. Whereas, you know, I always say that even our public housing, most of the people who live in public housing enter and exit their residence through their own door. They don't ride big elevators, and they're not big high rises. And so there's a level of safety and security that even with the most needy in our community that they've had through this, that really, you know, is a positive. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. We've also got Brian on with us today. And I know, Brian, you've had a lot of interaction with Bob. Just wanted to see if you had any types of insight or questions with what Bob's been talking about.
As I'm listening, the little bit I know about your culture, Bob, I think as you've described it, although you guys sell jewelry, right? You say that you're not in the business of jewelry, but like in special moments. Did I get that right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of had this unique culture going into COVID. What would you say to a family or a small business who is going through this and then recognizing that, okay, the way I've done things has got to change? They didn't go into it as healthy of a spot as you are, but they're starting to realize we got to change. How do you start changing a culture in the middle of a crisis?
Well, if I could have shared 4 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, I would have probably advised different than now. I would say right now, people are like just wanting something to celebrate. People are wanting to go out and get their hair done. People are wanting to go, whether it's to a bar with friends or to a restaurant with friends. I think people have eaten out through the curbside, but I mean, the pictures in Wisconsin were extremely controversial, but I was on a webinar with somebody that said that just shows how bored we are. And I said, no, that shows how like much we desire interaction, how much we want to go to church, how much we want to be a part of a community. And the Zoom environment has been great to connect with family and friends across the globe. I have a friend who's a very high leader in the army that's, in European command right now in Germany. It's been great to touch base with him, but you can't feel that sense of community the same way on technology. Yeah. And so whatever they do as a business, connecting to people in a very human, very natural way that they're comfortable connecting is, to me, where I would start. And it's not the new normal. It's what did you do well from the beginning that people loved you for, and lean into that, because everybody's business is loved for something. So lean into that. And the other piece that if the capital and the success situation is good enough, I'm a big proponent of failing fast, meaning try things that you would have never tried before. Because right now, it's not just the PPP that's forgiven. We're all in this funky world. So if you try something new and it completely succeeds, you look like the visionary of all visionaries. And if you fail, well, it was COVID. We tried something new and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So
that's good. That's good.
That would be and the other piece that, I'm in a group of jewelers, 12 jewelers across the country. And every Wednesday we've met for an hour and a half, and some have gone 2.5 hours. Find a network within your own industry, because you're all facing the same stuff at different times. And so we have 2 stores in California in the group and 1 in Hawaii, and those will be the 3 last to open, but almost everybody else has opened. So there's a way of finding out what best practices have worked and haven't worked.
Yeah.
And so, if you do nails and you're in a nail salon and you've been relatively insulated to Peoria, I'd go on a Facebook group and find a group of nail salon owners in states that have opened and said, how have you succeeded? Because there's a lot of wisdom out there, and we are, because we're in Illinois, slow to the table in opening, which is in some ways hard, but it's also a gift because you can find out what hasn't worked.
That's good. Yeah, we've got close friends, just piggybacking off what you're talking about with finding people who are doing what you do. We've had a great friendship with Southside Mission and Peoria Rescue Ministries, and being able to just give them a call, whether it's the executive director or someone who's running the homeless shelter or whatever it is within that nonprofit. It's just been good to know that there's someone else who's also going through what you're going through, but they come back at you with hope and, hey, we can get through this, especially if we're sharing with one another on what is going on. And that's been really valuable for us in our industry. It's hard to say, but it's not the norm to really rally around one another, other nonprofits, and do that. And we've really tried to break that. We did a conference last year, the three organizations together. But there's so much value. One of our staff core values is better together. And as a staff or as other nonprofits, we are always better together than apart. And I totally hear what you're saying, leaning into people who are going through what you're going through, so you can also not only find different things that may be struggling with, but also you can champion one another and lift one another up if someone is getting a little bit weighed down. So we were talking before we started recording, but you were sharing about your staff and how you've had to really try and slow down, right? Leaders and visionaries especially, we're always seeing the next thing. What mountain are we going to take next? But yet in a time like this, you've got to really try and explain that, because you've got time to. And when you were talking about it earlier, it just resonated with me. Can you share just a bit about the things that you had seen in the last
so
weeks?
Early on during the COVID time, we're big into it's not really a personality profile. It's how you're wired to interact with the world. And it's called the Colby Index. And Kathy Colby was Wonderlick's daughter. And the Wonderlick test is very academic, your cognitive ability to grasp, level of intelligence, I guess. Well, his daughter created a thing called the Colby Index, which is how you're born to interact with the world, which is the conative, CONATIVE. And my wife has actually been certified to be a consultant in Colby. And I think it was the first week of COVID, Kathy Colby, this tiny little 80-year-old woman, did a webinar about how people with certain Colbys are going to interact with COVID. And so the fact find, you're either a fact finder, follow through, quick start, implementer, and a fact finder needs all the details before they make a decision. Follow through is going to be something that you give a task to, and they're going to follow through. Quick start means you're going to be like, let's go. Where are we going? We'll figure it out, but we know where we're going. We're going somewhere. And then the implementer is more of the artist that likes to build implements and use their hands. And so I was sitting on that call, and this cute little 82-year-old woman in Arizona who can't figure out how to use the technology says, I've already made a decision that I'm going to give 100,000 free Colby indexes to the kids that are from 13 to 18 in this country. You just have to use this. And she goes, and that's the last decision that my team has allowed me to make during this whole time. Because, I mean, it was like $3 million worth of indexes that they would do if they would have charged for them. Because I think they're $30 per. Wow. And she goes, quick starts, which I am, and I have a feeling, Andy, you are as well, but they thrive in a crisis. And she said, you're going to lean into this crisis, and you're going to be like, I want to do this, and I can start this, and I can start this, and da-da-da. She goes, you need people to hold you back, because there is a threshold of capability at a time like this that you can't just go do everything. And so what I found through Patrick Lencioni and his table group was just a real simple model of develop a cohesive leadership team, create your rallying cry, communicate your rallying cry, over-communicate your rallying cry, and communicate it again. And it was a way of me saying, I need to create a rallying cry, which I did. We're going to work as a team to help people celebrate. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Take a step back, communicate that, communicate it again, communicate it in many different ways. Glenn Rothman, who started Hearts on Fire, one time said, you need to tell them 120 times in 7 different ways before they understand it. Whether you're talking about your team, your children, whatever, everybody hears things differently. So it's that over communication in many different ways. And so really pulling back and saying, slow down, stop, notice, and breathe. Eric Gabrielson, who's written a great book on fear in Minneapolis, whose father-in-law passed away of COVID, I noticed on his signature on his emails, it says stop, notice, and breathe. So I've tried to stop, notice, and breathe. And I will say that I have created 2 or 3 new businesses and assisted someone else on kind of getting their consulting practice going. The exciting one is the Potent Gratitude that kind of started as I was going to go downtown Peoria where my mom lives to see her one day, and I had like 3 hours to do it. So I was like, forget it. I'll just run down, which is about 9 miles. And if I took the trail, it was going to be like 11 miles. And so I decided to run straight down Knoxville. And the amount of people that I saw that I knew, and then I started taking pictures of different companies and took pictures of the health system and where my wife and I got married. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is what's going to occupy my time for the next however long this takes, is going around and being physically active, number one, but also highlighting kind of stories in my life that have mattered and businesses that have mattered. And I felt like Forrest Gump. There was one day where I was out on the Peoria Country Club golf course, and I had run to somebody's house to take a picture that I'd grown up with. And I just looked around, and I'm like, I don't know that I can run anymore. And then I started running again, and somebody called me, and I'm like, thank goodness you called, because I don't think I could have run anymore. And whenever people would call, I'd stop. So that Potent Gratitude will become some level of my giving back, charitable.
Yeah.
PotentGratitude.com. It's not built up yet, but really building some level of charity and foundation and contribution back through the practice of gratitude. And I've got some things going in that, and I made quite a few videos on that. Okay. And then I have something, you know, in my back pocket with the business that I'm excited about, that more to be seen later on that.
Yeah, don't give us all your secrets yet. But I know, Brian, you said how that had been impacting you, seeing the imagery of different places. Tell us a bit about that, Brian.
How are people reacting to it, Bob? Are you seeing mindsets change by you simply sharing what you're grateful for? How are you seeing people react?
I will say that, like, kind of friends from all over the country that grew up here were like, hey, you know, thanks for sharing. You know, it kind of brought back some nostalgia. I know for me, I mean, I did a FaceTime call, or I tried to, with the friend, best man at my wedding, in front of his house. And he was like, man, you know, and so that part was very impactful to people outside of here. Dr. Rick Pearl, who I always give credit for the Milestone Building and Jump Simulation Center, because he's from New York and acts differently than us here in the central Illinois area. When somebody says no, you kind of say, oh, okay, thanks. Rick's like, what do you mean no? So we were on the Children's Hospital board meeting board meeting. Yeah, I guess it was a Skype meeting the other day. And he said, thank you. He's like, I've lived here many years, but I've never seen the area through the eyes of somebody who grew up here. Mm. And so there's a lot of places that, you know, a lady that works at our store, she goes, I didn't even know Asia Grill existed. And she ordered shrimp fried rice. And she's like, that's like my new favorite restaurant. Yeah. So there's a lot of places when you slow down again and you start to recognize all the little wonderful gifts in this community, like Christ Lutheran. I didn't know anything about Christ Lutheran except they had really good sports and they were on the south side. And Howard Nathan went there, who was my age and I think best basketball player that I've ever seen come out of Peoria. And Martise actually attended school there last year. And if it weren't for him going there, I wouldn't have even known it existed. But I went down and took a picture of Christ Lutheran because that's a really cool place that not a lot of people, again, know exists. So the impact for me was just, you know, it gave me something to do, kept me active. I rode my bike to Pekin one day in a really bad windstorm, and the bike paths from Peoria to Pekin, like through Bartonville, are wonderful. It's I'm not going to say I'd send my kids there, but it's pretty safe. Yeah. But the wind was so bad that coming over the bridge going into Pekin, I didn't know if I was not going to like get blown into the river. So, but then you get over on the other side and there's a sign that says Pekin welcomes you. And I was like, oh, thank you, Pekin. So it was cool. And I got on my bike because my sister, who's a physician, who's actually consulting senior living facilities out west in multi-state area. She's a doctor and a consultant about how to keep the most vulnerable safe through this crisis. And she's quite an expert at it. She's the one who said, if your legs are hurting, you might want to get on your bike. So I ride my mom's bike with a little basket so I can put stuff in the basket. And it was funny. The day that I rode to Pekin, Jim Stoll was riding in front of me up Mount Holly Road. And he's riding like, you know, one of those bikes with the big handles and the big seats. And I think he had black shorts and like a black sweatshirt or something like that. It was the exact same outfit I had on almost the exact similar bike. And this guy on like a really like tricked out road bike with all of his tight pants and tight shirt with his, you know, bars in the back as he was going on a nice long ride. He literally looked at me and just kind of was like what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to Pekin. Like, that's good. But yeah, it was impactful. And I think it really solidified what Potent Gratitude will be for me as an organization going forward. And the Potent just is an acronym for things you can be grateful for. So people or person, opportunity, thing, experience, nature, or thought. And so it's a daily practice that I journal through prayer. Yeah. Years ago in a Fellowship of Christian Athletes Bible study, I learned that, again, with my brain that never stops, if I slow down to write down my prayer every morning, and I do it through Potent Gratitude, it starts the day off right. So I'm excited to take the put in gratitude to the next level, and who knows where it'll go. So
that's good.
If anybody's looking, go to Bob Woolsey and Mia Woolsey on Facebook. That's where you guys post that. And yeah, it's been pretty cool. You guys do a lot of campaigns like that where you stick with a common theme for X period of time, and it's fun to follow you on that.
Mama Mia with them.
Oh, Mama Mia, yeah. Where is she on this call? She
is trying to retire from being a teacher in the e-learning scope, but as many parents have found, there's just a couple assignments that just keep hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. So
yeah.
Talk about your kids, Bob, maybe Bennett in particular, because you hear a lot of people talk about how different generations are struggling with this or working through it. And I know you really have a heart and a mind for mentoring young people. It's probably always harder when it's your kids, but what do you see in Bennett go through? What are you most maybe proud of him as he's managing this, and what are some things you're trying to help him discover that you've discovered and you wish you would have learned earlier?
First of all, I think he has thrived in this because as a graduate that was never really into normal school, he got his graduation present early, which was a BMX, and he has been out riding his bike, BMX more than, and learning tricks and doing this and doing that, which is, safe, being outside. And he really hasn't been that nostalgic or missing out on the graduation and all that. I think part of it is because from a perspective, he's our first child, so he's never gone through what graduation looks like or what the last day of school or, my last week at Richwoods was fantastic. I mean, we did a lot of stuff that we don't need to share, but it was fun and it was like, woohoo, we're done. And, the senior thing. But when you don't have that perspective of what that means, it's okay. It's just the new kind of normal. I think he's probably a little more upset that the summer camp he works at in Rhinelander, Wisconsin is going to start at the end of June or July when it might be tough for him to go up there and work. And he's also not been able to visit the college he's going to, but he's super excited about going there because he'll major in a program of high performance motorsports, which is really hands-on learning, which I think what I've learned through COVID is you can really see what your kids are interested in. Mm-hmm. And we've leaned into that. And my middle son, Charlie, is an avid fisherman and really into basketball. And I've never seen a kid work harder in my life. I mean, he's doing Steph Curry's masterclass. He's, done outside workouts with kids in the neighborhood. I learned with Steph Curry's masterclass, if it's not a swish, it doesn't count. So you have to make 70 shots, but they all have to be swishes. So it's like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then my daughter, who's in 7th grade, who's much like me. And during the Colby presentation, Kathy Colby said, your quick starts are going to sit down at the kitchen table and they're going to say, family, we're playing a game. And they're going to jump up on the table if nobody plays and says, we're playing a game. And she's been doing that throughout. And let's just say that they're not the kind of games that the boys like to play, that they don't include Xbox or their friends. So, but I will say that there are children that are probably going to be engineers and accountants, the fact finder follow-throughs that are really going to thrive because they can provide themselves with the structure needed to get through it, because there's a lot of self-management. And kids like 3 of mine, so I've got 4, so 3 of mine, I'm not going to indict all of them, that are more along the ADHD spectrum.
Yeah.
They thrive being able to have their freedom and being outside of school, but they struggle to self-manage the structure needed to get through online learning. And I think what I have seen through Martise and the kids that are, in poverty, there's a lot there with online learning that they don't have the Wi-Fi capacity. They don't have the technology capacity. They don't have the parental support that is on them all the time. And in the process, it becomes, I think, a real challenge because there's not as many outlets. I mean, we have a basketball hoop. All the hoops that are for public use were taken down. So you've got a group of kids that can't play basketball. And you know, so it's that part I think has been very interesting as well, just to see how something like this really does affect different groups differently.
Yeah.
And so I've been very conscious of that.
Bob, I know you've been on a bit of a journey with us at the Dream Center, and you've obviously just talked about, you know, seeing families that are in poverty, which is what, you know, we do in trying to really impact those families that are in poverty. And we've seen the same thing with our out of school, after school program. Obviously, we can't be doing our summer camps or our after school programs, so we have taken our workers and even some volunteers to the kids. We've got, you know, we purchased 20 laptops. Everyone's got their hotspot. We're going into the homes. But you're absolutely right. It's one of those things that, you know, everyone just thinks that Wi-Fi is everywhere, and that a mom or a dad are in the home. And what we've noticed and seen firsthand is just someone being there for the kids, not just at the Dream Center, but now in the home, has been huge. Tell us a bit about your journey with the Dream Center. You know, what was it that was like, man, I want to hang around these guys a little bit more, get involved. You've done some real unique things over the years with our end of year events. Tell us a bit about that side of you, because many people may not know that about you with regards to the Dream Center.
So Brian introduced me to the Dream Center. Brian used to be in the world of the Boy Scouts, and my son Bennett is actually at the end of his reign getting to Eagle Scout, but has hit that COVID wall of his packets submitted. It's just how do you do your, I don't know if it's board of review, final, you know, the final meeting to get it stamped and done. So Brian and I worked a lot together in the scouting world. And when he approached me for the Heart of Illinois, or Heart of Peoria, Love Peoria.
Love Peoria, yeah.
Campaign, I really had a chance to take the tour and see exactly what was happening in the building where I started my swimming career, which didn't last that long, but anyway. And I'm very passionate, and have been through Big Brothers Big Sisters, to get to know the Taft homes, to get to know what mentoring looks like, to get to know what poverty is in the population. And as a quick start, I am very much into organizations that see a need and meet a need. They don't stop, gather all the details.
Yeah.
Figure out exactly what they need to do as a project, and then go. You guys are like the ultimate entrepreneurial, philanthropic organization, and faith-based. So it's very, your culture, your modus operandi, your brain is exactly the way I like to function.
It's messed up just like yours. Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
Our brain is messed up just like yours.
Your brain is capable of solving huge problems and aren't afraid to just go and fail and, okay, we'll figure it out some other way. So I just appreciate the entrepreneurial, philanthropic guidance, and I'm passionate about kids. I'm passionate about kids that, you know, need a hand to get to where they need to go, and when they do, they thrive. And so I love utilizing buildings like the Y and putting a big sign on it that make people think. And I think that you guys have done a great job of saying, hey, you might live in this city or this community, but we're all a part of Peoria, and we all work here, and we're all one team working towards a common goal. So
that's good. That's good. Well, we're going to wrap up in just a moment, but I know, and you know, Bob, especially in Peoria in Illinois, one of the last states to really start getting people back to work. What are some of the words of encouragement that you'd want to share just with some other small business owners around town that may be listening to this?
I think it really depends on the sector that you're in. If you're in a sector that's completely, shut down, like the hair salons, have hope, because hope plus action means anything's possible. And I have faith that as of the beginning of June, that there will be some guidance and there will be a possibility. And I think that the Restore Heart of Illinois plan that was put together, whether it's accepted or not, I think that's something to lean into from a hope perspective and use that as guidance. Mm-hmm. I would lean into your local leadership, whether it be Mayor Artis, your state's attorney, Sheriff Aspel, whomever, just to ask the questions of, so that you can get all the information, and don't get all your information from social media, because it's easy to get wrapped up into this. There is no hope. And the final bit of hope that I will give is people are not going to travel, which means they're going to spend their money locally. And I can guarantee you that most of your best customers usually travel in the summer and spend a lot of that money. And I would start some level of conversation around your best customers and people that you love and that love you, about spending some of that money with you, since they're not going to spend it on their vacation. So I think there's a lot to be hopeful for. And I think the biggest thing is just stay engaged, stay active. And we had a lady that had just started a business right before COVID and was not able to open her doors. And I noticed she had made a post on Facebook that was like, simulating that she was drowning. And I said, I need you to right now just grab a sheet of paper and write everything you're grateful for, and use potent person, opportunity, thing, experience, nature, thought, and write them all down. And then let me know how you feel after you're done. So get engaged in writing down things you're grateful for, because there's still a lot of things to be grateful for. Yeah. And you will have a mind shift.
That's good. That's good. Well, we just want to say thank you, Bob, for being with us today. I know this has been an amazing conversation. I know it's going to encourage so many people that have been listening. And again, if you're listening and you're wanting more information about the Dream Center, about some of the things that we shared about today, make sure you go to dreamcenterpeoria.org. And there's all different types of ways that you can get connected, both physically, not so much right now, but there are ways you can get involved with us. Obviously also financially, but also just prayer, and you see what's on there. You can pray for us, pray for the team. A bit like what Bob said, we were in the similar position where we were able to go for the PPP, where we were able to protect our staff, and we haven't had to lay any of our staff off. In fact, a lot of them are working way more than normal because of the need that we're seeing. And so if you want to go on and help there, Bob, I just realized as well, why don't you tell the folks how they can connect with you? You talk about this celebrating moments. Tell us a bit about how they can connect with you, especially through your website, and if people are in Peoria, that type of thing, whether it's COVID or after COVID.
So a couple different ways. One, bob@jonesbros.com is my email. And feel free to reach out. You can always text or call me. I can give that number out. I'm not afraid for that. And I'm on Facebook. I've never posted more than I did now. And, within a week or so, you're going to be able to stop out at Jones Brothers, because I have faith that beginning of June, end of May, we're going to have guidance that you're going to be able to, come out. And, currently we're working curbside, so it gives us an opportunity to meet people out in the parking lot, which is cool. So
that's cool. That's good.
You can find me many places.
Yeah.
If I ever need encouragement, I just call your number and listen to your voicemail. Because Bob and me are always talking in the background, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun.
That's good. Well, again, thank you guys for joining. Brian, thank you for joining me today. And Bob, thank you for joining us. And please make sure that you check the next episode of the New Reality podcast. Again, we're trying to do this every week, and please stay connected with us at dreamcenterpeoria.org. And again, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to this today. Thank you, and speak to you next time.
Thanks again for listening to the Dream Center Peoria podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you know of anyone that would be interested in hearing about what we just talked about, we would encourage you to share this episode with them. Be sure to stay tuned for future episodes. Thanks.